Hello everyone, I'm Nir Miretzky from CrazyLabs, and I'm here to speak about 5 tips for a perfect pitch and also a little about portfolio. So as I said, I'm Nir Miretzky, I'm a senior publishing manager here at CrazyLabs. I'm sitting in Tel Aviv in the headquarters, and I'm also the lead of the Crazy Hubs initiative. 5 different hyper-casual hubs or accelerators around the world. I will speak about it a little in the end. During my day-to-day, I'm helping gaming studios to establish a better hyper-casual environment to make good pitches into top charts games. We will also talk about it slightly during the slides. And that's it. I'm also a mentor, a lecturer in the Shankar College, the game design program, the most veteran game design program in Israel. And I'm looking forward to get new studios propositions from you. If you want to approach me later, you can do it happily. So the first thing is remember this file name. I will come back to it later. Pitch final 1111111.pdf. I will give a small tip about it later. You can keep it in the back of your mind. What we are going to take today is about a little bit about CrazyLabs in short, a little bit about hypercasual. I'm almost sure that almost all of you know about it, but I will give the specific relevant issues, the relevant points. The same thing about the hyper-casual timeline. And then my golden tips for your pitches and portfolios. Short summary, and then we will have time for questions and answers. So CrazyLabs is a veteran gaming company. We are here almost 10 years. Today we can say that we have at least 3 different labs, because we are CrazyLabs, we have labs. So the first one is the hyper-casual lab, the biggest one where I'm sitting and where this conversation is about. The second one is the casual lab, making casual games, kids games, casual games, women RPG games. It's more like a long relationship games with the players. More longer than hyper-casual, of course. And we have another lab. It's the secret lab, the other lab, where we produce new experimental games, genres, business models. Lately, we came out with Once Upon a Blast. It's a beta game, a blast game that we are testing, and you are invited to play it and send us your comments. So as you may know, CrazyLabs today is a top 3 publisher worldwide, both on hyper-casual and in total. We had more than 4 billion downloads in total in the last 10 years, which is almost 1% of the total downloads in the world. It's huge. We have around 200 million users every month. And we are working with more than 350 developers worldwide. The numbers keep growing all the time, and we are getting bigger and bigger. So, as I said before, feel free to approach. This is the same thing about the 4 million downloads, but in a GIF. So, a little bit about hyper-casual. Hyper-casual games, as you know, should be simple, short, satisfying. We want them to address mass appeal. We don't want it to be too narrow niched, because it will be harder for us to get cheap installs. In general, I will explain it in a second. But it doesn't mean that we don't need to find also games that are niche-like. For example, we can make games only about racing or shooters, which only approach men and don't approach women almost at all. But it's big enough group to get good results. So we are not talking about totally mass appeal games that will address anyone in the world. We have some smaller niches, but we will try to make those smaller niches as big as possible if we want to succeed in hyper-casual. The games or the levels should be also highly replayable. Part of the content of the game is just playing the same level again with some different tweaks. If it's fun, of course. It's part of the mission of the developer. They are easy to monetize. Usually 99% of the monetization is coming from ads. So easy to monetize means that we need to have, for example, level-based games and not endless games, because when the level is finished, it's easy to put a new ad, but when it's a long, endless level, the ads will interrupt the gameplay and will make the game worse, and we don't want it to make the experience as less as good. So, for example, level-based games are better than endless games. And of course, speed in production. Speed in production, the idea is that we want the game to move from a pitch, like we're going to talk soon, to a top chart game as soon as possible. We have many enemies trying to interfere. We have cloners. We have other people that thought about the same game in the same time. It's happening all the time. We can see a different trend changing. So we want it to be fast. And then when we go to the top charts, we want to stay there as long as possible. So again, we want to be fast and to add content and to be smart about it, not to go to be number one and then to lose this position after a few days. Have enough content. A little bit about the timeline of a game in hyper-casual. So I divided it into 3 parts. The first part, which should take 2 weeks, sometimes it takes more, but could take 2 weeks, is when we check if players want to play our game, if players want to download our game. We do it with 2 different parts. The first part is the pitch himself. You send the pitch to your publishing manager. He's checking it alone or with his team, and he gives you his review. The review is based on a long experience, specifically in CrazyLabs, more than 3 years, 4 years of hyper-casual. We've seen a lot of games, we tested a lot of games. You can give you a very good data based on our experience. So first thing, try to understand our review and change or not change or quit your game if you don't think it's good enough and move to your next pitch. If the pitch is good, we will say, wow, it's a great idea, let's move on, and then we can move on to the next step. The second step, which is the even more important one, is testing the game in CTR or CPI test. CTR, click-through rate, is a very simple test. We take 30 seconds of your game, video ad, we don't even need a build, and we upload it to Facebook, TikTok, Snap, one of the networks, and we check how many people that got impression of this ad click it eventually. If, for example, more than 3% are clicking the ad, we know that there is some potential for this game to be lovable by a big crowd. So we move on, or sometimes we just start from a CPI test. CPI is cost per install, when we want to check how cheap it could be to buy users for our game. For example, if I put ads in $100 and 100 people install the game eventually, so I can calculate each install cost me $1. In hyper-casual, or specifically in CrazyLabs, we are looking for 35 cents per install. It's not so easy to do, but it's easier than it was before. We used to do it with 18 cents, so now it's almost doubled easier to achieve. And if we see that this game has potential to acquire user in less than 35 cents, we will move on to the next phase. The second phase is about will players come back to the game. And the first test will be people that install the game today. Are they coming again tomorrow to play it again? and we are looking, for example, we are looking for 35% of the people to come again. So it's like third of the people should wake up in the morning or go to the doctor and wait in line or go to the toilet and think to themselves, I want to play again that game that I played yesterday. So if we can achieve that with a good gameplay, only then we will move on to a day 7 output test. Output test is average revenue per user test. We put as much as possible ads into the game, and we try to see how much money the game can make in a week. If the output is bigger than the CPI, then we have some arbitrage that we can work with later and make money from the game. The last part is checking if the game could be scaled. If I can take this game and I did this test for, let's say, with 2,000 users, now I want to make the same test with as much users as possible, millions of users, and to see if the CPI stays low and the output stays high, and can we make money in a big scale. And if it's successful, or even if it's not successful in many times, we are moving on to a worldwide scale, worldwide release, where we release it in the GP store, in the iOS store, and publish it all over the world. So now for the main dish, do's and don'ts for your hyper-casual pitch and portfolio. As I said, portfolio will be very short, but also important. First thing, which is a thing to remember for everything about hyper-casual, is make it catchy. We want the game to be catchy, but also we want the pitch to be catchy. Remember that someone is sitting from the other side of your PDF or your slideshow and is reading it, and he's reading hundreds of pitches a week, and you want him to be convinced that this pitch is good. So don't forget to make it simple to understand, to explain it very shortly how quick to play the game is going to be, and for the reviewer to understand how it will be quick to play. Always good to add a video or a GIF of your gameplay. If you don't have it, you can also put a reference for another game with the same flow, or with the same gameplay, or with the same mechanics, or with the same theme. But of course, if you can put something from your soon to become a game, it will be the best thing to convince the reviewer. And you should put in mind that there is the famous 3-second rule. When a viewer in Facebook or Snap or TikTok is watching a video ad, you need to understand what's the game about in 3 seconds. You also need to understand what are the mechanics and the theme. If you cannot understand all those three, he most likely will quit the ad and move on. If you want him to stay, you need to give him all of those in 3 seconds. When we are writing a pitch, we should also explain how we are going to explain all of those in the first 3 seconds of the video. As I explained before in the timeline, marketability is key, and we want the game to approach mass appeal. One of the things that we can do is try to base it on a trend. For example, look on TikTok trends or YouTube trends or Instagram trends, challenges, every crazy thing that you can find, or any life experience that you see all around you, and a lot of people will feel empathy to it, or know what you are talking about when they see the video ad. So when we do it, it's easier to explain the viewers what we are talking about and which games they want to expect. And the other side of it, it's the view to play potential. If we know that there are millions of viewers for soap cutting videos, maybe we can make a game that will convert the viewers into players, into people that will play our game. Another trick will be to gamify. We can take a life experience. In this case, it's the tie-dye, which, if you know, we also made a game out of it that just reached 100 million installs. And we took the idea of tie-dye shirt making, and this slide is copied from the first pitch of the tie-dye game. We see everything in this slide. We see that we get a white shirt, we scramble it, we tie it, we put colors on it, we untie it, we put it into water, and then we get to reveal the shirt. We see all the steps here. It's very clear what you need to do in the game. It's very clear to me where can I put ads, where can I put rewarded ads. So it's a great example of how to gamify a trend and also to explain it very easily in the pitch. Some stuff you need to remember is first, you want to keep the fun in and the mess out. In this example, you don't want people to spray color all over the houses, so they can do the same thing inside the game. This is part of the digital issue. But in the same time, we don't want to lose the fun. For example, we don't want to know how it will created eventually in the end, because the revealing part is part of the fun of the real tie-dye and also the digital tie-dye. Another important thing is to stay as close as possible to original trend. Don't add fake steps. We don't want to put the shirt in a washing machine, for example, in the middle. Okay, it doesn't happen in real life, we don't need it in the game. But if we have a step that we have in real life, we will try as much as possible to also put it as a step in the flow. And as we said before, we need to convince viewers of the tie-dye shirt trend on TikTok to become players in our tie-dye game. So again, try to explain it in the pitch, how I'm going to convince viewers to do it. Another important part of hyper-casual games at Total, but specifically in pitches, is the originality. As you know, the top charts are full with very similar games. They are similar in the themes, they are similar in the assets, in the mechanics, in the genre, in the design. Everything could be similar. But still, we can see all the time games that are flashing above all other games. And how they do it? They stay original at least in 2 out of those 4 points. The genre, or the mechanic, or the theme, or the design, at least 2 of them should be original when you try to upgrade an existing game or to twist an existing game in a new one. For example, you can take Temple Run, and then to add also a jetpack mechanic, and also change the theme from a jungle to the space. I'm flying as an astronaut between planets. Okay, so it's the same mechanics, because you still swipe left and right. It's the same runner genre, but the theme is different, the design different, and we added some twists, and maybe this game could be interesting enough for people to play. Don't do it because space-based games don't work, but in hyper-casual, but in general, just to give you the general feeling. The last important thing will be sustainability. We want the game to move to 3 phases when we become successful. The first one is after we understand the potential of the marketability of the game, we will move on to check the retention. So we need an idea that we'll have enough content to become a day 1 and later on a day 7 and day 30 content for the game. So if this game is only about eating sausages, maybe it's not enough. Maybe the video ad will be great, but we will not have enough content to the game to become a full game. The second part, we are talking about after the game is already going to the charts. It's like a golden goose that laying golden eggs all the time, and we want it to continue to do it as much as possible. So we need enough content or enough creatives or enough interesting add-ons to put in this game to keep it in the top charts as much as possible. And the last part is after he finished his part in the top charts, in the top 10, let's say, we want it to stay on the top 50 or in the top 100s for months or even years. We have games that are in the top 50 for 2 years, 3 years. For example, Amaze, our game, or even Tie-Dye, which is more than a year in the top 50 games. And for that, we have a specific live ops team that help the developer to continue and add as much as possible content to make the game still profitable and interesting even years after the first launch. And a bonus tip, the first bonus tip is keep it short and simple. It's a hyper-casual game. It must be an hyper-casual pitch. If it's longer than a few sentences, something is not hyper-casual about it. If you cannot explain the control in one sentence, if you cannot explain the theme or the story or the gameplay, something is wrong. It's very rare for a game to get 2-3 lines of explanation about how to control it. Okay, it's swipe left, swipe right. You don't need to add too much to that. The second thing, which I specifically feel very strong feelings about it, is the file names. It sounds simple, but as you remember in the beginning, you saw this crazy, strange file name. If you want publishing managers to easily find your pitch, to easily work on it, to easily give you a review, to later on, when it becomes more successful, to remember who sent it to them, please keep a very clear and understandable file name. For example, use your studio name, so we will know who sent it, the game name, so we can recognize which game we are talking about, CrazyLabs, if you're sending it to us, and the date, because sometimes you send different versions of the same idea, and we want to know which is the recent one. So it sounds very simple, but people are still sending me pitch.pdf, and it's just, I go down through the 100 million pitch.pdf files that I have, and it's very difficult later to find it. So the name of the PDF, the name of the video, your name, everything that you send, try to put as much as information as you can in the name. There is no too long name for a file in this case. And the tip that I promised about portfolios, when I'm checking a portfolio of a studio to see if I want to work with him or to try to work with him as a hyper-casual studio, I don't need to see his, unless they don't have any other choice, I don't want to see his AAA portfolio, I don't want to see his casual portfolio. I especially looking for hyper-casual portfolio. People that finished 3 years in GTA making AAA games and multiplayer, huge universes, are not promising me that they know how to make hyper-casual. And I want to see hyper-casual games, to see that you understand it, that you know what to do with it. So send the publishers, and specifically to me or to CrazyLabs, a portfolio that is based on hyper-casual. It's even better to send 2-3 games instead of 100 or 20 good games if they are not hyper-casual games. They just get lost in the pile. So to summarize, your pitch should be catchy, both the game and the pitch, should be marketable, and also to explain easily to the reviewer how the game is going to be marketable. You can use gamifying, and gamified trends is a very good pitch base to start with. You should stay original as much as you can, at least 2 out of those 4 options. You should have in your mind and to explain the reviewer about future content for the game. We don't need it for the test, but we will need it later. Is it possible to create it? And as I said, don't make me look for it. Make a very clear username, a file name for me, so it will be easier for me to recognize and work with. A few words about our crazy hubs. It doesn't connect directly to the talk. Other than that, this is the first talk that we are giving in the crazy hubs themselves. We have now 5 different crazy hubs around the world. I'm leading all the educational part of those hubs. The Mumbai one, Tel Aviv, just finished the second batch. Istanbul and Novi Sad started this week, and Cape Town is coming, and we are going to also surprise with some new hubs in the close future. If you want to apply for one of them, even if you are not living there, you can do it through our site. We have a hyper-casual training program, a boot camp for newcomers, and we are mentoring and giving professional training for all the attendees, for all the participants. Of course, you need to get accepted, but we don't expect you to know hyper-casual before. So if you're a skilled Unity guy or a skilled game designer or a team, even better, you should approach as a team. that's it. Let's stay in touch. If you want to approach me or another publishing manager here, you can just send an email to publishing@crazylabs.com, and I will be here for any of your questions now or later. Thank you.
Thank you, Nir, for your presentation. Actually, what you said was absolutely brilliant. You brought so many unique tips for our audience. I really appreciate your response. And the flash one, which has really impressed me, that about presentation about pitch, that it should be as catchy as the future game. Thank you so much for this. The funnel starts right from pitch. Okay, we have several questions in our chat waiting for your attention, so I'll be reading them for you. As a developer, how much of the game should be ready before we pitch?
None of it. Well, maybe only like a small part, like a half micro level of it, just to give us a GIF or to give us the feeling of the gameplay. But the idea is not to. The idea in hypercasual in general is not to spend time on something that we didn't test yet. And the pitch is the first test. Maybe I will not like the game, so you will waste your time. So you need to put as much as minimum as possible game for me to get convinced, but not more to spend your time or efforts.
Thank you so much. The next one. When is it okay to give up on hypercasual game idea?
Well, depends in each step. If you are doing it in the pitch, sometimes I will give you a clear answer and I will say to you, we already tested this idea, no one is getting a good CPI on it, let's move on, and that is the time to quit it. You can still try to convince me with a new version, it's okay, I will not be angry about it, but I think you should move on. And it's the same for every step of the way. For example, when we're making a CPI test, and if it's very bad, let's say $2 or $1 for CPI, so we know it will be very hard to move the needle to 30 cents. But if it's 35 cents, 40 cents, maybe we should try again, maybe we should try to change the color palette or the character or something that will not take too much production to do. If it takes too much, let's make a new game.
Thank you so much.
I think this is like the thumb rule.
Thank you. Okay, 2D hypercasual is still a thing on publisher or publisher want to only go with 3D game.
Well, it's a good question. Since hypercasual is data driven, if you check the top charts games, you can see that most of the games, let's say 90%, even 85% of the games are 3D based. So if you are talking about chances, 3D games have more chance to become a top chart game. But in the same time, we still have surprises with 2D. So it depends on the studio. We prefer 3D because of the chances. But for example, narrative-based games are usually 2D based, or comics-like games are usually 2D based. So you can find your way in 2D, but if you want to have the full skill, the full chance, it's prefer to do 3D game.
Thank you so much. Can you talk more about the mentorship? Are there fees open for students or professionals?
What does it mean by fees? Like, do they need to pay?
Yeah.
No, well, it's the other way around. We are CrazyLabs. For each team that get accepted to the hub, they will get kind of allowance. Let's say we get a few, in general, a few hundreds of dollars for a month to help them pay for the daily payments. It's not a salary exactly. You will not get rich out of it, but it will help you focus on coming to the hub and study as best as you can. And also you will get rev share from your own games in the hub if they will succeed later. So it's the other way. We don't take money, we give money, and we want to together to make a success and to make you rich and us a little more.
Thank you. Sounds really exciting. Do we need to send a game build with the pitch?
No. As I said before, you shouldn't. If you wasted time on making a build of a game and you didn't check the pitch yet, or You can send us directly a build, it's okay, but you invested a long time and a lot of efforts to make this build, and maybe the idea was already tested, and maybe it's just not a trend anymore. Don't make games about the elections in the States. It doesn't interest anyone, okay? It's already over, for example. Or the Olympics are coming, but a few weeks after the Olympics, no one will want to play them. So you need to do it in the right time, and we can give you this advice, and you can move on to the next game and have more chance. So don't send builds unless you want to start with a build. You can send a video, which is always good.
Thank you so much. Are you accepting pitches for casual lab games, specifically puzzle games with lots of depths and levels?
Again, well, Amaze is a puzzle-based game, and we have other puzzles games, and some of them are successful. And I think puzzles are at the top genre today in the App Store. I think in general, I just saw a report that we released about the top trends. You can find it on LinkedIn. And from one side, yes, but it's still an hyper-casual game, so it still need to be marketable. Don't make depths, don't make too much content. You need to make 1-2 levels for the video ad to see if people want to play it. Only then, if people want to play it, we will invest more time and effort and make the actual game. You will also get some, if the test is successful, you will also get usually some financial help, a little, so you can get more easy to be focused on that game.
Thank you so much for answers. Actually, we have more questions, but we're running out of time. Your speech was so exciting. People continue to send their questions. How can
I get it all the time.
How can guys reach you with those questions and probably pitches? Is there any contact you prefer on LinkedIn?
Sure. Of course, I'm approachable through LinkedIn and everywhere, but if you want to get your pitch reviewed, or just to ask questions, or send your portfolio, you can send it to publishing at CrazyLabs.com. I'm getting all those mails, so I will be happy to read them and give you my review, or one of my teammates will do it, and it's the best way to start.
Thank you so much for today's speech. It was really, really exciting.
Thank
you for coming, and have a great day.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.